Can I get a motion for approval of meeting minutes from last meeting? Do you have some meeting minutes, Bob?
Yes.
Motion for approval.
Can I get a second? All in favor? Okay, so we have two pieces on the old agenda that I would like to bring before the committee for a favorable report. We have, thank you, Bob. I know it's on here, but I've seen it. Here it goes. Resolution expressing council support for integrated planning and new affordability consideration for water and declaring an emergency. Can I get a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Second. Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 2, resolution requesting the administration to enact a lift-up program as part of a comprehensive plan to provide water to those residents who need financial assistance and declaring an emergency. Can I get a motion?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Where's he coming from?
Ayes have it. Okay, we have one piece of legislation on the agenda.
Hold on.
Can't seem to find nothing today. Okay. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and accept sponsorship funding for the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency to be utilized in the purchase and the eventual restoration of certain land adjacent to Lake Rockwell Reservoir, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement or agreements to carry out the purposes of the sponsorship program, authorizing the expenditure of funds and declaring an emergency. Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have Jessica Klucheski here from our water plant to answer any specific questions, but we are looking to buy 38 acres up at the watershed, and on this 38 acres next to Eckerd Ditch, there's a small package wastewater plant that we will purchase and we will decommission. And this is to ensure that the ditch, and do a lot of cleaning of the ditch to secure our watershed, because this is adjacent to Lake Rockwell. So if you're looking at Lake Rockwell, if you're looking at Lake Rockwell like a clock, we're like, our water plant is like at 7 o'clock, where this is like at 2 o'clock. Okay, so it's on the other side of the lake, but this ditch discharges into Lake Rockwell, which is our drinking water.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Councilman Swirsky?
So you're going to demolish and then clear the land and remediate certain potential environmental hazards. Could you explain that a little bit? And is there, are we hiring an outside consultant to do that, or how's that going to be accomplished?
Yes, so we will be hiring a consultant. It will go out for design first. There are some structures on the property, including the aforementioned package plants, this little wastewater treatment plant on site there. That will be, so there are some structures, we'll remove those. The back portion of the property, Eckerd Ditch runs directly through the middle of that, and it's kind of swampy. So we want to do restoration on that to improve the water quality of Eckerd Ditch moving through, but also to eliminate those structures and to keep someone else from developing something there, utilizing that package plant and adding in nutrient loading to the reservoir.
Okay, so the purchase of the land is to protect the water supply.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not going to develop it, or?
No, we won't be developing it. We will be doing restoration, and even on that part where there are structures now, we'll demolish those structures and we will plant that in native species and things that, would benefit water quality.
Great, so that gives me an example of things you do for restoration, planting native species. Are there other things you do as part of restoration?
Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay.
So the area, this 38 acres, it had been drained for agriculture years ago, and then it flooded constantly, so the land was abandoned. So now it is pretty much all like those really tall grasses that grow on the side of the highway, Phragmites. It's almost completely dominated by one species, and it's very straight, and it has been ditched several times. So the water doesn't actually go out into the wetland area. It stays in that channel, so any nutrients, any pollution that happen to be in there come straight to the reservoir as opposed to getting absorbed by the wetlands that are on that property. So what we want to do is reintroduce that stream to the wetlands, reintroduce some native species that help kind of with biodiversity and make that an actual functioning wetland again so that it can grab that nutrient and that pollution before it comes into Lake Rockwell.
Great. So, I'm sorry, I forgot to raise my hand. Could I ask one more? Okay, just so every time an average citizen in Akron drinks a glass of water, the water really, not even, people don't even know it comes from Lake Rockwell. And you're taking some very aggressive methods to protect that water supply. That's what this is part of.
Yeah, the Akron Water Supply has a history of, having a very strong watershed protection program. It's very difficult to treat already polluted water. It costs a lot more money. So if you can protect the land surrounding your water source and keep that pollution out, at the end of the day, it's cheaper to make better water than it would be if you just relied on whatever's coming into your intake, treating that and sending it out. So that's kind of the theory behind that. And especially around Lake Rockwell, we take it a lot more seriously, that watershed protection, to keep people from developing those lands, to keep them natural, to hold, any of the incoming pollution from really getting into Rockwell, because once it comes into the plant, some of those things can be very difficult to remove.
Excellent.
Mr. Kilby?
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. How many buildings are going to be demolished?
5 buildings.
What are they, houses or?
So there is, the property used to be a trailer park. So there is a house and a shed, kind of a garage and shed attached to that house. And then there are 4 trailers on the property.
Oh, so the trailer's going to just be hauled away and scrapped?
Yeah, I think, that's kind of the plan, yes, to
Okay.
haul those away and scrap and see what we can get.
So, of this $1,002,500, how much is for the property?
The property is $169,500 for the 38
$1
acres.
million?
No, $169,500.
Okay, so the rest of it is for hauling away a few trailers and tearing down a building? How big is the building?
It also includes the restoration, and the restoration can be kind of costly. The building is a house, so it does include, the house and the trailers. It also includes getting rid of that package plant, which requires a contractor to come in and specially deal with that. There's also an aging gas and oil well on the property that will be capped and removed as well as part of that. Plus, a majority of that cost is the restoration cost, going in and putting curves back in the creek and introducing it and getting rid of invasive species on that property and putting in natives.
So, all right, I had another question, but I kind of forgot what I was going to ask. Let me think. Oh, well. Anyways, yeah. Okay, so how long has Lake Rockwell been there? Since like 100 years or something like that?
Yeah, Lake Rockwell construction began in 1912 and was put into service in 1915.
So how long have these buildings and things been there?
On the property that we're aiming to purchase, I believe the house was built in 1904. The trailers, I'm not sure when they had been moved.
So why has this just become a problem now?
It isn't a problem now. We occasionally look for properties that are close, that have potential to pollute into Lake Rockwell. And if we can find sources to purchase those properties, and this is a sponsorship program, so the EPA will be giving us a lot of that money. If we can find programs to purchase these properties, to add that layer of protection to Lake Rockwell, we do that.
That's a good idea. So do you think we can save a little money on chemicals since we don't have to treat the water as much by doing stuff like this?
I think that it adds up. You know, it's like saving a couple of pennies now. It will add up in the long run. You know, one parcel here, one parcel there may not make a huge difference, but lots do.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Freeman?
Is there other locations like this, either around Rockwell or Ladue, that we would be looking to do this in the future as well?
Yes, as properties come available, you know, we have a scoring sheet that we look at when a property is available, and it looks at all sorts of things, but specifically it looks like what kinds of pollution sources might come from this parcel, and how close is it to one of our waterways or to some of our other parcels. This particular parcel is right across the street, so it would actually be joining two city-owned property already. So it would give us a larger piece of Eckert Ditch that we can control and help, hopefully, reduce any type of pollutant coming in or catch those pollutants before they get into Lake Rockwell.
Is the property going to be secured then, or will public have access to?
The public will not have access. It will become part of the Lake Rockwell assets, and we do not allow public any public on those lands whatsoever.
The more buffer you have between that lake and...
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Thank you, Mr.
sense?
Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So does this automatically, this land become developable once it becomes a part of the Lake Rockwell? So,
Sorry, go ahead.
and how long is that protected for? For as long as it's connected to Lake Rockwell?
Okay, so through this program, we are required to put a conservation easement on the property, which would make it undevelopable in perpetuity. So, you know, with the acquisition of this property, we have to have that conservation agreement saying that we won't develop it, and that's forever, basically.
Excellent. So just a quick question on the funding amount. I see Ohio EPA. What's the COA?
City of Akron.
Oh, that's us. I knew that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is consent okay?
Yes.
Can I get a motion for,
Motion for consent.
can I get, all in favor? Opposed? And if we have anything else not to come before us, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? We are adjourned.
Didn't I already give them to you? Yeah, I did. I handed them to you when you were talking about the consent agenda. Yes, I did. Here, but you can have any one you want. Who did? That's true. They're all the same.
Michael Freeman.
Huh?
Mike Freeman.
I already gave it to her once. You got another set over there. She saw me give it to you. I'm telling you, I'm going nuts. You're driving me nuts slowly. No more minutes. Well, this is rules right now. Oh, it's on the consent agenda, she's saying, I think. But I gave you mine.
Where's my clerk?
That's a question for one of these attorneys.
Oh, no, he's up there.
Just pull it off and just tell me you have a substitute member coming in. Is this, wait a minute.
would like to call the Rules Committee to order, please. Thank you. I believe we have everyone here on the committee, so I want to thank you all for sitting up here. I would like a motion for approval of the minutes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the minutes have been approved. Okay, we will first go into our old business, and I'd like to take time on that, please.
Which one?
Time on old legislation, on our old business.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know you had it.
And now we will go into our new legislation. And the first item to come before us is a resolution approving and confirming the reappointment of Stephen A. Stock to the Akron Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency. Is there anyone here? Hi.
Yes,
Don
ma'am.
Rice will speak to us.
Yes, Mr. Stock is a member of the Civil Service Commission. He is here today. And he's been a member of the commission since, I believe, 2004. He served with distinction, and it's my recommendation that council approve his reappointment.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Mr. Stock is in the audience.
Yeah, that's exactly what Mr. Rice said. Stephen Stock, would you please stand? Would you like to say just a few words to us about your appointment?
I guess I'm just requesting that you reappoint me. I enjoyed serving on the commission for over 13 years, so and I would enjoy to continue that service to the city.
Okay, well, we want to thank you for your dedication to this. If people within the community did not step up and share with us their expertise and their time and commitment to these, we would not be able to function at the level that we do. So we want to thank you, sir.
You're more welcome. Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from other council members? Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I know Mr. Stock, when he says serves with distinction, what have you, that's a tough job, and there's a lot of hard calls that they have to make. And I know I appreciate all of your effort on that. It's not an easy board, if you will, to sit on from time to time. So thank you for your service for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Anyone else? Okay. What is your pleasure, Mr. Rice? Consent?
Consent, please.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this item will go on the consent agenda. Item number 2 under rules, resolution recognizing and honoring the history and culture of Native Americans and the contributions by tribal nations to the development of the American continent, and an acknowledgement the efforts to preserve this history in our country, in Akron, Summit County, and Ohio, by establishing First Peoples Day on the first Monday of October and declaring an emergency. Okay, before you, I have given all the committee members, and there are still more of these booklets, but they have been created by the students of Lippman School and presented to Akron City Council. This study that they have done has taken quite a bit of time, and they all have a piece of reflection in here about why they believe this resolution is important to come before our city. So having said that, Matt, will you be going first? Okay, Matt, please go ahead right to the podium. And if you want, we have a few guests here that we want to give them a few minutes to speak. Okay, so Matt is their teacher, but I am not going to steal any more of your thunder, so I will let you go.
Thank you. My name is Matt Russ, and I'm a teacher at the Lippman School. And on behalf of the Lippman School, I want to thank the council for the honor of presenting before you today. The Lippman School offers students a cross-cultural educational programming that strives to build collaborative partnerships in the Akron community and beyond. We create experiential educational opportunities where students learn from and with people inside and outside of our school community. Learning about the first people that inhabited where we live and helped to shape the culture of our city, state, and nation is an important aspect of any student's education. Akron and Ohio in particular have a rich Native history that needs to be accurately and honestly taught to our students. Through our partnerships with the Northern Cheyenne Nation in Montana, who trace their lineage to the Great Lakes region, and the Summit County Historical Society, we have been able to teach our students authentic Native and Akron history. Through their own learning during these experiences, they have begun to recognize the cultural and historical significance of Native contributions to our city, state, and country, and are excited about the opportunity to formally recognize those contributions through the establishment of First Peoples Day. I now introduce to you the 7th and 8th grade class of the Littman School, who will present supporting statements to validate this resolution.
And whenever a student comes up, if you will be sure to give us your first name and your last name, please.
Good afternoon, my name is Braden. The Littman School's rich history began with a group of interested and engaged members of the Akron Jewish community who wanted a traditional day school opportunity for students to learn about Judaism alongside their general studies. In its more recent past, school leaders undertook planning processes that resulted in major innovations of the school curriculum, cross-culture programming. This programming has included about local, state, and nation Native American history culture. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and you were the first one to get it done, so now you can relax and enjoy what else you hear.
Good afternoon. I'm Ravinda Mendes. Curriculum at the Littman School provides students with 21st century skills. Students have the choice between Hebrew and Spanish languages. Littman graduates often enter pre-IB, AP, or honors programs in high school. The school also has partnerships with students from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation in Montana and the Dolly School in China. Every year, the students from the schools on the reservation come to Littman. Every other year, the students from Littman travel to the reservation. When the different schools get together, they not only learn from group activity, but also from one another. Every year there's a school play that the whole school takes part in, which highlights both languages. These are just some of the curricular opportunities at Littman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Yovichin. We believe that First Peoples Day will help educate the public about Native American people and their history. The reason it is on the first Monday of October is so that schools can teach about them during the day and we can all participate in the walk together. We think that they should be recognized for who they really are and not just stereotypes. We need to recognize all of the active tribes in this country that practice their culture and religion. To have a day to learn about them is important, so we don't forget them and what they did for our country. We want people to remember what they did and how brave they were in their struggles with the government, like Sand Creek in Colorado, 1864. In the past, Native Americans have been treated wrongly and killed. Trying to remember all of the wrongdoings and change stereotypes and their actions is important. This day will help us establish a foothold and spread the message.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Sylvia Stillman. In 2016, the Littman School created an app to teach people about the Portage Path and its history. All of the content and research was completed by students from the Littman School, the Portage Path Community Learning Center in Akron, and the Northern Cheyenne from Montana. This project took a year to finish. To make the app, we researched information about different tribes that walk the Portage Path. We learned about the history, geography, birds, and trees along the path. All grade levels created content for the app. You can use the app along the Portage Path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Allison Skolnick. The Littman School has had a connection with the Northern Cheyenne tribe for 7 years. Every year, students and tribal leaders come to our school. We learn about them and they learn about us. For the Littman School, it is very important to learn about different cultures. which is why we have events like a camp out every year where we get to help build teepees and sleep in them that night. Every other year, we go to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation and we participate in activities like a sweat lodge ceremony, and we visit some historical sites. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Martha Chestnut. The partnership between the Littman School and the Northern Cheyenne Nation originally started with Steve Chestnut, my grandfather, who was a lawyer for the tribe for 40 years. His son Brian now serves in that role. Steve received a traditional Northern Cheyenne name, which is a great honor. Later, Sam Chestnut, Steve's son, and the head of the Littman School, started a partnership to help both communities educate one another. Although this partnership started small, we are consistently trying to make it bigger and better. We are growing the connection because we want to learn more, and it's a part of our school program. The Littman School has not only taken students to the reservation, but 2 adult groups as well. Our connection is getting stronger and stronger, especially with the Portage Path Walk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ilan Meltzer. The Littman School does many educational things when the Northern Cheyenne come here to Akron. The first thing that we did was we went to Kent State and did rock climbing. Afterwards, we met with students from Kent's Native American Student Association. Another thing we do is hiking Cuyahoga Valley National Park. We also debark teepee poles together, make fry bread together, and make drumsticks. Once all the poles are debarked, we make teepees together. This school year, we had 3 teepees, and next school year, we hope to have 4. That weekend, we hold a bonfire for the school, and the Northern Cheyenne dance in their regalia. Last year, we had 2 schools join us on the walk. We hope we can have more schools join us next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Sonia Roy. Last October, when we walked a part of the Portage Path with the Northern Cheyenne and 2 other Akron schools, it was a very exciting and educational experience. This walk was also the biggest one yet, with local news coverage, multiple schools present, and a presentation at the end of the walk as well. This next year, we are hoping to have our walk take place on Akron's first People's Day. If we did have the chance to do so, we think it would be a very meaningful and historic event for the city of Akron. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Fisher, and I am a member of the Northern Cheyenne Tribe from Ashland, Montana. Maintaining our cultural identity is difficult because of busy schedules. The elders who know the dances, songs, and languages have little time or are dying. All the traditionals were passed down by grandparents and great-grandparents. And during the boarding school era, Indians were sent to boarding schools to basically make a new identity, starting off by cutting their hair. If the kids, or if they were caught speaking their traditional language, they were punished severely. They were forced to speak English and be someone they really weren't. And by the time they got home, they were a completely different person with little to no knowledge of the people who they really were. And after going through all this punishment for being traditional, you would think they wouldn't want to teach it to their kids, so they don't have to go through it. So the passing down of these traditions were very scarce, and it's the traditions like these that give us the Northern Cheyenne people our cultural identity. So I think this resolution can bring pride because we can tell people our story as Cheyenne, as a Northern Cheyenne, and we can tell people what we have been through and show we are still here telling other people. The impact of this exchange is pretty big. It is big because I am representing my people, and representing my people to me is important, and it brings me a lot of pride. I also like telling people who I am and where I came from, and traveling on this exchange has a big impact, going to a new state and city, a big city, as compared to home. And trips and exchanges like this make you realize there is more to the world than a small Northern Cheyenne reservation. Thank you.
Is it Ryan? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Ryan. I'm pretty sure you're not commuting to school here, so could you tell us once again where you're from? We might have missed that.
I'm a member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe from Ashland, Montana. Go to school at St. LeBray High School located in Ashland, Montana.
Okay, thank you. So you came in...
Like one street.
Oh, bless you. Okay, you did a nice job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Paveshev, ladies and gentlemen of Akron City Council and Chair. My name is Walks in Mountains. English name is Otto Braided Hair. I'm Northern Cheyenne, traditional leader from Lame Deer, Montana. So I'm just 20 miles from where he lives. So I'm honored to be here in support of the Portage Path resolution. Honored to be here. Centuries ago, my ancestors were in this region, in this area, the Sutta. And today, we still have a strong, very precious connection to the Great Lakes. When we meditate or pray, we think of the Great Lakes. And over the last 7 years, I've served as a consultant, advisor, a cultural advisor to the partnership with Littman School and the Northern Cheyenne Tribe. And been very gratifying, it's been educational. But since my first time here, I've wanted greater visibility of the tribes that were in this area. Our awareness efforts for the Portage Path, as I said earlier, has been very gratifying. It is highly likely that my ancestors' moccasins walked that Portage Path. I'm mostly humbled to help the tribes that were in this area. I'm very humbled to help bring back Portage Path into the consciousness of the people. And on behalf of the Cheyenne and all my relatives that were in this area long ago, and the relatives that come here to visit each year, and for the future, I sincerely appreciate your support for the Portage Path resolution. Thank you. Niash.
Matthew, is there anyone else that will be presenting? Just state your first name and your last name, please.
I'm Jay Toth. I'm from Seneca Nation, Western New York. LA Scano. I was asked to come here today, last minute. This is the first time I've been here. I am the graduate at Youngstown State. I represent the nation's Historic Preservation Office. Seneca Nation, Ohio was Seneca lands. It was taken away at the end of a gun. Seneca Nation is a $127 million operation today. We have 8,500 tribal members. And I think some of you come up and visit one of our casinos. I appreciate that because that pays my salary. So, again, this was Seneca lands. The state name is a Seneca name, Ohio, which means beautiful river. and I appreciate coming up and some of the things that are being done here. Akron's always been activist as far as Native people as long as I can recall back in the 70s. But while I was waiting at the hotel for the ride over here, I see Congress is passing a law about immigrants. And just remind you, the Second Nation never passed a law for the immigrants. And we were just wondering when you were going to go back. So with that, again, thank you. And we'll probably be talking later.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay. If there is no one else to come before us to speak, I would like to open the floor up to anyone on the committee for questions about the resolutions or concerns. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. I'd just like to say thank you to Sam Chestnut, Mr. Russ, Mr. Bennett, Walks in the Mountains, students. In October of 2015, City Hall kind of put a challenge out to Littman School to highlight and to educate, in essence, the rich history of the Portage Path and what that is in terms of our history as a community. And I feel as though you have gone way above and beyond with the app that you have, with the relationship with the Northern Cheyenne tribe that you have. This is, and now coming forward with this proposal here and all the work that you've put into it, this is truly a welcoming way to honor our rich history and appreciate all your work and hard work on this particular item. Thank you for coming forward. Thank you for all your work. And I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fusco. Anyone else on the committee? Councilwoman Amobian.
I too would like to thank you for the work that you've done. As a person of a minority group, it is so wonderful that the contributions and the recognition of the Cheyenne tribe is being recognized. Cheyenne, I'm not sure what I'm saying. But the important thing is to recognize, and I think as we are living through the history we're going through in the nation today, is that this great country that we all love has been created and developed by many different groups, and to recognize the contributions and the history of all of those groups is very important. So I really thank you for this. And Mr. John Bennett happened to be a former Akron teacher who actually taught at Portage Path Elementary School. So it's good to see you again. And the work that you're doing with young people continues. So thank you very much for what you've done here today. Thank you.
Anyone else from the committee? Any questions or concerns from council members? Councilman Swirsky?
I just want to thank...
Is that turned on?
I just want to thank the leadership at Littman School and Mr. Lieberth, and just say that the students, I think, have done an outstanding job, and I know that Mr. Ross played a big role in prepping them, and really appreciate it, and I hope some of you someday run for city council. I know there's several Highland Square people. Who here is from the Highland Square area? Well, I won't be around forever, so.
Oh, really? Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you very much.
John Bennett, I am Gail LaCroix's sister, who taught at Portage Path with John. So, okay, is there a motion for this piece, this resolution?
So moved.
Okay, a motion for suspension rules?
I'd like to recommend that we refer.
I have a motion for suspension of rules, and I now have Councilman Fusco. Okay.
The motion to refer that I withdraw my original motion.
So, thank you so much. The motion for suspension of rules has been withdrawn. We will now accept a motion for time. So, is there a second? Okay, I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, this resolution will go on time. Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming down here. It does, aren't you breathing well now because you don't have to get up there, but you did a wonderful job. And Sam Chestnut, I don't know if you got your dues, so if you would be so kind as to stand up. Sam Chestnut is the principal of the school. So, and obviously you have a child in your school with you. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so great. So thank you for all the organization it took. As a former teacher, you can be very proud, Matt, Russ, of this. This, well done, students, very well done. And I look forward to talking to all of you later. Is there anything else to come before the Rules Committee?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion, second? All in favor? This meeting is adjourned.